The dormant storm across the stars of the Milky Way, over 8,000 species had formed the Grand Galactic Concordat. For nearly 3 millennia, this alliance maintained peace and prosperity throughout explored space. Among these species were humans, unremarkable in most ways, peaceful traders and scientists who contributed modestly to galactic society from their handful of colonies. The human homeworld, Earth, was considered pleasant but unexceptional, and humans themselves were viewed as a mid-tier species, not especially strong, fast, or technologically advanced compared to the oldest members of the Concordat. What puzzled xenoanthropologists was humanity's surprisingly quick journey to the stars, and their almost complete lack of military tradition. Human history before their space age was classified under restricted archives, a courtesy extended to all species regarding cultural sensitivities. Captain Mira Chen stood on the observation deck of Outpost Horizon, watching stars glimmer against the void. She commanded this small scientific station orbiting Nova Terra, humanity's most prosperous colony world. Her post was considered low-stress and ceremonial. Human outposts hadn't needed genuine military defense in over 200 years. "Captain, we've detected multiple signatures entering the system," Lieutenant Kai reported, his voice oddly calm despite the unprecedented alert. "Configuration unknown, but they're moving in attack formation." Attack formation? Chen's brow furrowed. The concept seemed almost absurd. "Confirm with Central. This must be a miscommunication or a drill." Before Kai could respond, the station's emergency frequencies erupted with signals from Nova Terra's surface. "This is Governor Ellis. Unknown vessels are entering orbit and launching landing craft. They're firing on civilian centers. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Chen felt something stir within her, a strange clarity she had never experienced. Her thoughts organized with military precision that felt both foreign and oddly familiar, like recalling information from a dream. "Identify the vessels," she ordered, her voice steady. After a tense moment, the station's system responded, "Vessels match Araxian Imperial Fleet configurations." The Araxians, an aggressive expansionist species that had joined the Concordat only 70 years ago after being forced to sign peace treaties. They had been quiet for decades, but rumors of their military buildup had circulated. "Send emergency. Protocol Alpha Phoenix to Earth," Chen commanded, the code sequence appearing in her mind without conscious recall. She had never been trained in such protocols, yet somehow she knew it with absolute certainty. As the quantum signal raced toward Earth faster than light, Chen felt her heart rate steady. Her muscles tensed, becoming more efficient. Her vision sharpened. Something was changing within her, within all the humans on the station. Lieutenant Kai's posture had straightened, his movements becoming precise and economical. "The Araxians have breached the main settlement," reported Ensign Rivera, her fingers flying across the control panel with newfound expertise. "Governor Ellis reports heavy civilian casualties." Chen felt rage rise within her, but it wasn't the chaotic emotion she expected. This was cold, focused, and calculating. "Prepare evacuation protocols. We need to save who we can, and—" She paused, surprised by her own thoughts. "Access the station's emergency weapons vault." "Weapons vault?" Kai asked. "The station doesn't. Have code sequence 47 Alpha Theta Phoenix 9, Chen said, the numbers flowing from her lips unbidden. The station's AI responded immediately. "Emergency contingency accessed." "Captain Chen, biometric confirmation required for protocol. Sleeping Thunder." She pressed her palm against the scanner, confused but certain. The wall behind the command console slid open, revealing a cache of weapons none of them had known existed. On Earth, in a facility deep beneath the Antarctic ice, 9 elderly individuals sat around a circular table as alarms blared. They were the custodians, the only humans who knew the truth about humanity's past and the safeguards built into their very DNA. Protocol Sleeping Thunder has been activated, announced Chairwoman Vega, her aged hands trembling slightly. Nova, Terra is under attack by the Araxian Empire. The oldest member, Director Ishida, closed his eyes. Then it begins again. After 2 centuries of peace, we must become what we once were. The genetic locks are disengaging across all human space, reported Dr. Alvarez, monitoring global systems. The awakening has begun. Chairwoman Vega's expression hardened. May whatever gods exist forgive us for what we are about to unleash. Activate the Phoenix Directive. Throughout human space, in the bodies and minds of billions of humans, dormant, genetic sequences began to activate. Knowledge they had never learned flooded their consciousness. Combat techniques, weapons specifications, tactical analyses, and military strategies embedded in their DNA by ancestors who hoped these secrets would never be needed again. On Nova Terra's surface, the Araxian forces moved with brutal efficiency. They had chosen this human colony first, precisely because humans were known to be peaceful, easy targets to demonstrate Araxian supremacy before moving against more formidable concordate species. Commander Vex Hadar of the Araxian Imperial Forces strode through the burning human settlement, his segmented exoskeleton gleaming in the firelight. "Status report," he demanded. "Minimal resistance, Commander," his second replied. "The humans appear to have no weapons beyond basic tools. Some are attempting to fight with farming implements and construction equipment." Vex Hadar chittered in amusement. "As expected, these creatures have forgotten the meaning of war. Secure the government center and prepare for Phase 2. What the Araxians couldn't see was the change occurring in the humans they encountered. Farm worker Sarah Nolan had dropped to her knees when the pain first hit, genetic locks disengaging, as dormant sequences activated in her cells. Now, she stood with a new awareness, examining the simple harvesting tool in her hands. In her mind, she suddenly understood 15 different ways to use it as a weapon, complete with analyses of Araxian exoskeleton weak points. All across the colony, the same transformation was happening. School teachers, engineers, doctors, and farmers were changing, becoming something their ancestors had buried deep within their genetic code after the last war on Earth. The knowledge of millions of years of evolution as apex predators and thousands of years of warfare was resurging in their minds. In orbit, Captain Chen finished reviewing the tactical data that her newly awakened mind could now process. The Araxians have committed 12 warships to this attack. Their focus is planetary. Occupation, not destruction. Can we fight back? Lieutenant Kai asked, checking the charge on a plasma rifle he somehow now knew how to operate. "Not from here," Chen replied. "But help is coming. Earth has received our signal." In the darkness between stars, ancient automated shipyards hidden in asteroid belts throughout human space hummed to life. Vessels that had been maintained by AI systems for centuries began powering up. The Phoenix Fleet, humanity's hidden sword and shield, waiting for the day it might be needed. On Earth, the custodians activated the final phase of the protocol. From their Antarctic facility, they sent the awakening signal to every human in the galaxy. DNA that had been carefully designed to suppress humanity's capacity for violence was now recoding itself, returning to the original pattern that had made humans the most dangerous predators on their home planet. The Araxian commander Vex Hadar was in the midst of recording a victory message when the first signs of trouble appeared. "3 squadrons have gone dark in the Western District," his communications officer reported. "Technical interference," Vex Hadar dismissed. "These humans have no weapons." "Commander," his tactical officer interrupted, "we're detecting energy signatures from orbit. Multiple vessels are emerging from faster-than-light travel." Outside Nova Terra's atmosphere, 20 human warships appeared, vessels of a design no living being in the galaxy had seen before. They moved with predatory grace, immediately deploying into attack formations that Araxian tactical computers couldn't predict. In the lead vessel, Admiral Diana Wei sat in the command chair. Yesterday, she had been a university professor specializing in xenobotany. Today, she commanded a war fleet as if she had trained for it her entire life. "All ships, execute attack pattern thunderstorm," she ordered, the words coming naturally. "Disable their engines first. We want prisoners." On Nova Terra's surface, Sarah Nolan led a group of transformed colonists through the settlement streets. They moved with perfect coordination, using their farm tools and captured Araxian weapons with deadly precision. Within hours, the invaders found themselves surrounded by the very prey they had thought defenseless. As his troops began to fall back in disarray, Commander Vex Hadar realized his critical error. The humans hadn't been peaceful because they were weak. They had been peaceful because they had chosen to be, and now they had chosen war instead. "What are these creatures?" he whispered as he watched colonists dismantle an Araxian battle tank using only harvesting tools and captured sidearms. The answer would soon shake the entire galaxy. Humanity had not forgotten war. They had locked it away, buried it deep within themselves, praying it would never be needed again. Now that ancient fury had been unleashed, and the storm was just beginning. Thunder rising. 3 weeks after the attack on Nova Terra, the galaxy witnessed a transformation that defied all understanding. Humanity, once considered an unremarkable, peaceful species, had undergone a metamorphosis that terrified even the BAE, oldest Concordat members. The changes weren't just military. On Earth, artists who had never shown interest in combat now sculpted perfect replicas of ancient weapons. Children's drawings shifted from imaginary creatures to startlingly accurate battle formations. Musicians composed stirring war anthems without conscious effort. Humanity's buried military heritage was expressing itself through every aspect of culture, as if the species' collective subconscious was preparing for conflict at every level. Dr. Eliza Watanabe, formerly a linguistics professor at Oxford University, found herself instinctively creating an optimized battlefield communication system that eliminated tactical ambiguities. "I don't understand where this is coming from," she confessed to her colleague, now General Marcus Chen of Earth Defense Command. "I've spent my career studying peaceful communication between cultures, yet I'm designing systems explicitly for war." General Chen nodded grimly. "The knowledge was always there, buried in our DNA. Our ancestors didn't just lock away weapons, they locked away entire parts of themselves, parts they feared but couldn't bring themselves to destroy entirely." In the recaptured orbital station, above Nova Terra, Commander Vex Hadar sat in a holding cell, his mandibles clicking nervously as Captain Mira Chen entered. She moved differently now, with the precise economy of a predator. Her eyes held a calculating intelligence that seemed to dissect his every movement. "I've studied your species extensively these past weeks," Chen said, her voice unnervingly calm. "Your exoskeleton has 14 exploitable structural weaknesses. Your neurology is remarkably centralized for a species that evolved from hive insects. And your military doctrine prioritizes overwhelming force against weak targets." Vex Hadar's compound eyes widened. What are you?" "We are what we have always been," Chen replied, placing a data tablet between them. "A species that evolved as pursuit predators on a death world. Our ancestors hunted prey to exhaustion before developing tools. When we created weapons, we turned them on each other, fighting wars of increasing sophistication for thousands of years." The tablet displayed images that horrified the Araxian commander, ancient human battles, weapons that had scorched entire continents, armies that had clashed across Earth's surface. 300 years ago, we nearly destroyed ourselves in the last war," Chen continued. "The survivors made a choice to lock away our weapons, to alter our own DNA to suppress our violent instincts, hoping we could join the galactic community as peaceful members. Her eyes hardened. But our ancestors weren't fools. They knew that a galaxy full of different species might someday threaten our existence. So they built safeguards into us. Dormant knowledge, hidden reflexes, suppressed. Instincts that could be awakened if necessary. Vex Hadar chittered in disbelief. Impossible! No species could hide such capabilities from the Concordate's assessments. We hid it from ourselves, Chen said simply, until you attacked Nova Terra and activated Protocol Sleeping Thunder. Across human space, the transformation continued at an astonishing pace. On 26 human worlds, ordinary citizens organized into defense forces with extraordinary efficiency. Engineers who had never seen military hardware now designed improved weapons systems. Farmers adapted agricultural machinery into defensive fortifications with expert precision. The Phoenix Fleet, once hidden and dormant, now patrolled human systems, with crews who operated the advanced warships as if they had trained on them for decades. In orbital shipyards, humans constructed new vessels using designs that appeared in their awakened minds, ships more advanced than anything they had officially built before. Earth's Antarctic Command Center, now fully operational, coordinated humanity's response. The 9 custodians monitored the awakening with growing concern. The genetic changes are progressing faster than predicted, Dr. Alvarez reported. Humans born since the awakening show advanced combat instincts from birth. Some children as young as 5 are displaying tactical thinking that would rival our best military minds from the last war. Chairwoman Vega nodded grimly. And the psychological effects? Concerning. While most awakened humans retain their core personalities, we're seeing increased aggression, heightened territorial responses, and enhanced predatory instincts across the population. The longer this continues, the harder it will be to go back, Director Ishida finished. We must move quickly before we become what we once were. Dr. Alvarez laid out another set of scans. There's more. The neural pathways being activated show signs of creating permanent changes. Humans are literally being rewired for war. The most concerning cases involve children below the age of 10. Their developing brains are incorporating these military instincts at a fundamental level. Any way to mitigate this? Asked Custodian Park, the youngest of the 9. Limited success with meditation and empathy reinforcement, Alvarez replied. But it's fighting against millions of years of evolution as predators. Our ancestors who designed the suppression protocols never intended them to be active for this long. They expected quick conflicts followed by immediate deactivation. Director Ishida's ancient hands trembled as he pulled up historical files. After the last war, it took 15 years to design the original suppression protocols. 15 years of careful genetic engineering to cage the predator without killing the human. We don't have that much time now. On the concordate capital world of Harmonia, an emergency session of the Galactic Council was underway. Representatives from 200 species gathered beneath the crystal dome of the Grand Chamber, fear palpable in the air. Admiral Diana Way entered the chamber, accompanied by a delegation of human officers. The council fell silent as she approached the central podium. Many species had known humans for centuries as peaceful neighbors. These humans were different. They moved with precision, their eyes constantly analyzing, their postures subtly intimidating. Thati, Araxian Empire has violated the Concordate by attacking human worlds without provocation, Wei stated, her voice carrying throughout the chamber. They have killed millions of our civilians. They have conquered 6 other concordate worlds before targeting us, correctly assessing that those species had no means to defend themselves. The Araxian representative rose in protest. These humans are an abomination. They have concealed their true nature for centuries. The Araxian Empire acted in self-defense against this hidden threat. Wei's expression remained unchanged. You attacked peaceful colonies populated by farmers and scientists who didn't even know they had the capacity for war. You expected an easy victory, as you had against 6 other worlds, She activated a holographic display showing the current disposition of human and Araxian forces. The council members gasped as they saw the Phoenix fleet, over 100 warships of advanced design that had seemingly appeared from nowhere. "We did not come to ask permission," Wei continued. "We came to inform you that humanity will defend, both itself and the Concordat, against Araxian aggression. We will liberate the conquered worlds and stop this threat." The ancient Thrune Arbiter, oldest member of the council, floated forward in his gravity chair. "For 3 centuries, we have lived alongside humans, never knowing what slumbered within. Your kind. Your restraint speaks to your wisdom, but your capacity for violence terrifies us. What assurance can you give that humans will return to peace when this conflict ends?" Admiral Wei's expression softened slightly. "Before the awakening, we were peaceful by choice, not by ignorance. That choice remains at our core. Once the threat is eliminated, we will attempt to reactivate the suppression protocols. But understand this, humanity will never again be defenseless." The Thrune Arbiter's tendrils waved in a gesture of deep concern. "I am 12,000 years old by your measure, Admiral Wei. In my lifetime, I have seen 17 species destroy themselves after discovering their capacity for violence. The path you walk is dangerous not just for others but for yourselves." Wei nodded respectfully. "We know. Our history is written in the blood of our own kind. That is precisely why our ancestors chose to cage the beast within us. They understood that a species defined solely by its ability to make war will eventually turn that war upon itself. Yet now you unleash this beast," observed the Irel representative, her crystalline form shifting colors with emotion. "We unleash it to defend not just ourselves but you as well," Wei countered. "The Araxians would have conquered your worlds next. They were working through the Concordat systematically, targeting species that had forgotten how to fight. And after the Araxians are defeated?" asked the Arbiter. "What then?" Wei's eyes reflected an inner conflict that all awakened humans now faced. "Then we face our greatest challenge, choosing peace when war comes so naturally." As the council session ended, one Concordat species after another pledged support to the human war effort. The Araxian representative stormed out, transmitting emergency warnings to his homeworld. Meanwhile, on Nova Terra, Sarah Nolan led the newly formed Nova Terra Defense Corps. In 3 weeks, she had gone from a farm worker to a tactical commander, with innate knowledge of combat operations. Her unit had been tasked with analyzing captured Araxian technology. "Their weapons are powerful but inefficient," she explained to Captain Chen during a strategic briefing. "We've already improved their energy utilization by 30%. Their ships are fast but not very maneuverable. We've identified 17 critical weaknesses in their design." Chen nodded. "The same pattern is emerging across all fronts. We're not just adopting their technology, we're improving it beyond their understanding." Later that day, Chen met with Admiral Wei, who had returned from the Concordat Council. "What did you learn from the Araxian prisoners?" Chen asked. "Their empire decided the Concordat was weak," Wei explained. "They began conquering worlds one by one. No one fought back effectively. They thought humans would be the same." "They were wrong," Chen said simply. Wei looked troubled. "There's something else. The Araxians are calling for reinforcements. Their home fleet is mobilizing, 3 times larger than what we faced here." Chen's eyes gleamed with a predatory light that would have been unthinkable in a human just weeks ago. "Then we need to be ready. The first battle is over. Now the real war begins." On Earth, the custodians made their decision. The Phoenix fleet would not just defend human worlds, it would take the fight to the Araxian Empire and liberate the conquered planets. Humanity had not just awakened, it had remembered the art of war. But as humans prepared for battle, a critical question remained. Once fully unleashed, Could humanity's ancient fury ever be contained again? The lightning strikes. 6 months after the attack on Nova Terra, the war between humanity and the Araxian Empire had transformed the galactic landscape. The Phoenix Fleet, once hidden and dormant, now numbered over 500 warships, each more advanced than anything the Concordat had seen in millennia. Admiral Wei stood on the bridge of the flagship Thunderbolt, studying tactical displays, as her fleet prepared to launch the final offensive against the Araxian homeworld. In 6 months, her forces had liberated all 6 conquered Concordat worlds and pushed the Araxians back to their core systems. The transformation of her mind and body continued to astonish her in quiet moments of reflection. Her vision could now track multiple moving targets simultaneously. Her brain processed tactical simulations at speeds that would have been impossible before the awakening. Even her musculature had subtly changed, becoming more efficient, requiring less rest. But the most profound changes were psychological. She found herself thinking of Araxians as targets rather than people. She dreamed of hunting them through dense forests. Sometimes she caught herself salivating slightly when planning attacks, a predator anticipating the kill. All ships report. "Ready, Admiral," reported her executive officer, Commander Julian Reyes. 6 months ago, he had been a composer specializing in classical music. Now he commanded starship operations with instinctive brilliance. "Before we begin," Wei said quietly, "tell me, Julian, do you still hear music in your head?" Reyes looked startled by the personal question. No, not anymore. Now I hear battle rhythms, attack patterns, defensive formations. Even when I try to compose, it turns into military marches." His expression showed concern. "Is that happening to you too?" Wei nodded slowly. "I used to dream about stars as objects of scientific curiosity. Now I see them as navigational markers and strategic positions." She straightened her uniform. "We're changing, Julian, becoming something our ancestors locked away for good reason." "But we're winning," Reyes pointed out. "Yes," Wei agreed. "But at what cost to ourselves?" She squared her shoulders, pushing the philosophical concern aside. "Begin the operation. Execute attack pattern Spear of Dawn." The human fleet moved with perfect coordination, executing maneuvers so complex that Araxian defense systems couldn't predict them. The space around the Araxian homeworld erupted with energy weapons and kinetic strikes as the Phoenix Fleet systematically dismantled the defensive grid. On the Araxian Imperial Command Station, Supreme Commander Vrex's Talon watched in mounting horror as his defenses collapsed. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "These were peaceful traders 6 months ago." His strategic advisor, a veteran of 100 campaigns, shook his head in disbelief. "They're not just fighting us, they're evolving as they fight. Each engagement, they adapt their tactics, improve their technology. It's as if warfare is coded into their very beings." What the Araxians couldn't fully comprehend was the truth. Humanity's capacity for warfare was indeed genetic. Millions of years of evolution as pursuit predators, followed by thousands of years of increasingly sophisticated conflict, had shaped humans into living weapons. The genetic awakening hadn't simply restored dormant knowledge, it had unleashed humanity's ability to innovate in warfare. Human minds now processed combat situations with extraordinary speed, identifying patterns and exploiting weaknesses with predatory efficiency. In Antarctic Command, the custodians monitored the final offensive with mixed emotions. The military victory was assured, but bioscanners tracking human populations showed concerning developments. "The transformation continues to accelerate beyond predictions," Dr. Alvarez reported. "Children born since the awakening show combat instincts 300% more developed than our models projected. Adults display increased territorial aggression, decreased empathy toward perceived threats, and heightened pack-hunting behaviors." Director Ishida, now looking frailer than ever, studied the data with a heavy heart. The longer we remain in this state, the more permanent these changes become. We risk losing the peace we fought so hard to achieve. Chairwoman Vega nodded grimly. Contact Admiral Wei. She must understand what's at stake in this final battle. On the Thunderbolt, Wei received the transmission from Earth with growing concern. The data confirmed her own observations. Humans were changing in ways that went beyond the initial awakening. She had noticed it in herself. A coldness when planning attacks, a predatory satisfaction when enemy ships were destroyed. The musician, the philosopher, the scientist she had once been was fading, replaced by the perfect warrior. She had seen it in her crew as well. What had begun as activated knowledge was evolving into something more primal and dangerous. Humans weren't just remembering how to fight. They were becoming living weapons, specialized for conflict. Admiral, Commander Reyes interrupted her thoughts. We've breached the final defensive line. The Araxian capital is exposed. Awaiting your command for the final strike. Wei studied the tactical display. The Araxian homeworld lay defenseless before her fleet. With a single command, she could reduce their major cities to ash, ending the Araxian threat forever. Open a channel to Supreme Commander Vrex Talon, she ordered instead. The Araxian commander's face appeared on the main screen, his compound eyes reflecting the emergency lights of his failing command center. Your defenses are eliminated, Wei stated coldly. Your fleet is destroyed. You have one option, unconditional surrender. Vrex Talon's mandibles clicked in agitation. And if we refuse? Then humanity will demonstrate what we are truly capable of, Wei replied. Your species attacked peaceful human colonies, killing millions of civilians who didn't even know how to fight. We could respond in kind. She paused, feeling the predatory instinct rising within her, the desire to eliminate the threat completely. But something else fought against it. A memory of who she had been before the awakening, a scientist, a person who valued life. But we will not, she continued, surprising herself. You have 1 hour to signal your surrender. After that, we will prosecute this war to its conclusion. As the transmission ended, Commander Reyes approached. Admiral, our forces are positioned to strike. We could end the Araxian threat permanently. Wei studied him, noting the coldness in his eyes that mirrored her own. And what would we become if we did? Throughout human space, the question resonated. In 6 months, humanity had transformed from a peaceful species into the most formidable military force in the galaxy. The knowledge and instincts buried in their DNA had awakened fully. But so had something else. The capacity for destruction that had nearly ended human civilization during the last war. On Nova Terra, Sarah Nolan stood with Captain Chen, watching the reconstruction of the colony's main settlement. Despite their new military capabilities, they had insisted on rebuilding homes and schools first. Command says the Araxians are considering surrender, Chen said, checking her tactical display. Nolan nodded, her eyes tracking the workers with unconscious tactical assessment. And then what? Do we go back to who we were before? Can we? Chen asked softly. On the Araxian homeworld, Supreme Commander Vrex Talon faced his Imperial Council. We have no choice, he stated bluntly. The humans have destroyed our fleet and disabled our defenses. They could destroy our major population centers within hours. Then why haven't they? Asked an elderly counselor. I don't know, Vrex Talon admitted. By all logic, they should have eliminated us completely. Their restraint confuses me. An Araxian scientist stepped forward, her exoskeleton bearing the marks of academic achievement. I've studied human history since this conflict began. Their behavior pattern makes sense when you understand their evolution. They are pursuit predators who evolved to hunt in cooperative groups. Unlike us, who evolved from solitary ambush hunters, humans instinctively understand the value of allowing an opponent to surrender. Explain, demanded the Supreme Leader. Their ancestors hunted by exhausting prey through persistent pursuit, often over days. This created selective pressure for energy efficiency and cooperative behavior. When the prey was finally exhausted, a quick kill was the most efficient outcome. The scientists' compound eyes gleamed with academic interest. In contrast, our evolutionary heritage rewards the immediate kill, the surprise attack. We never developed the instinct to accept surrender because our hunting style never required it. Vrexatalon considered this insight. You're saying their mercy isn't moral superiority but evolutionary programming? Perhaps both, the scientist replied. Their suppression protocols suggest they recognize these traits in themselves and chose to control them. That choice may be their true evolutionary advantage, the ability to step outside their programming. 59 minutes after Wei's ultimatum, the Araxian Empire transmitted its formal surrender. In Antarctic Command, the custodians received, the news with relief. Begin preparations for the suppression protocol, Chairwoman Vega ordered. We need to return our people to peace before these changes become irreversible. Director Ishida looked troubled. And if they resist, the awakened instincts may fight against suppression. Then we must remind them of who we chose to be, Vega replied. Not just predators, not just warriors, but humans who valued peace enough to lock away our capacity for violence. 3 weeks later, representatives from all human colonies gathered in Geneva on Earth. They met in the ancient war room buried deep beneath the old United Nations building, a chamber that had not been used since the last war 3 centuries ago. Admiral Wei addressed the assembly, her uniform immaculate, but her eyes showing the internal conflict that all awakened humans now faced. The Araxian threat has been contained. Their leadership is under concordant supervision. The conquered worlds have been liberated. Now we face a more difficult question. What do we become? She displayed the biological data compiled by Antarctic Command. The changes triggered by the awakening continue to progress. The longer we remain in this state, the harder it will be to return to peace. Sarah Nolan, now representing Nova Terra's government, stood to speak. I was a farmer 3 months ago. I grew food to sustain life. Now I can field strip an Araxian particle cannon in 30 seconds and calculate orbital bombardment patterns in my sleep. She looked around the chamber. I didn't ask for these abilities. None of us did. But we have them now. Should we give them up again? The debate lasted for hours. Some argued that humanity should maintain its military capabilities, serving as the Concordate's protectors. Others insisted that their capacity for violence, once fully unleashed, would eventually turn inward, as it had before the last war. Captain Chen finally rose to address the gathering. 300 years ago, our ancestors locked away their weapons and buried their warrior instincts because they saw that a species defined by war would eventually destroy itself. But they didn't erase these things. They preserved them, just in case. She walked to the center of the chamber. They understood that sometimes peace can only be protected by those willing to fight for it. But they also understood that the capacity for violence must be controlled, not celebrated. One by one, the representatives voted. When the final tally was counted, the decision was narrow but clear. Humanity would implement a modified version of the original suppression protocols. Their military knowledge would remain accessible but dormant, ready to be awakened again if needed. Their predatory instincts would be tempered, though not eliminated entirely. In the years that followed, humans worked to find balance between their peaceful aspirations and their awakened nature. The Phoenix fleet remained operational but reduced, a visible reminder to potential aggressors. Antarctic Command maintained vigilance, monitoring both external threats and the psychological health of humanity. The concordate species viewed their human neighbors with new respect and caution. They had glimpsed the sleeping predator beneath the peaceful exterior, a species that had chosen restraint not from weakness but from wisdom. On Nova Terra, Sarah Nolan returned to her farm, planting crops in fields that had once been battlegrounds. Sometimes, when the wind blew across the fields, she felt the awakened instincts stir within her, the tactical assessments, the combat reflexes that had saved her colony. She didn't try to suppress these feelings entirely. Instead, she acknowledged them as part of humanity's complex heritage, the capacity for both creation and destruction that defined their species. Captain Chen visited occasionally, helping with the harvest, despite her new responsibilities coordinating with the Concordat. During one such visit, she found Nolan watching the sunset. "Do you think we made the right choice?" Chen asked. "Returning to peace when we could have become the dominant force in the galaxy?" Nolan considered the question carefully. "Our ancestors buried their weapons not because they were weak, but because they were strong enough to see where that path led. Maybe true strength isn't found in domination, but in choosing restraint when you hold power." Across the galaxy, humanity continued its careful balancing act, maintaining peace while never again forgetting the ancient fury that slept within them. They had been awakened once. They could awaken again. But for now, they chose to remember who they had been before the storm, creators rather than destroyers, builders rather than warriors. The sleeping thunder returned to its slumber, but this time, the galaxy would never forget its sound.